The guiding principles of Laureates include vision and integrity. Alexander Duncan McRae is the epitome of both. McRae had identified an opportunity in surplus railway lands. He sold them to American settlers, flocking west. And on the heels of his national success, he invested in a failing lumber company in BC. Exercising his national network, he persuaded the federal government to dredge the Fraser River. Deeper waters meant bigger ships carried more lumber, generating larger profits that modernized the mill and grew Canadian Western lumber into a forestry powerhouse. A contemporary of McRae's was his accountant, John Hallbauer, who guided many companies to success. He was a chartered accountant, a foundational professional that looked beyond the numbers. Hallbauer, while focused on his clients, was also building his own company, one with an equally strong and lasting legacy. That company, Hallbauer McLaughlin, became the largest accounting firm in Vancouver at the time. Today, it is known as KPMG. Of course, Bob Hallbauer's career was enhanced by his relationship with John Hallbauer. He needed that steady hand and insights as he forged a mining empire that has grown to be a global leader. In the mid-50s, he joined Placer Dome and was quickly identified as a rising star. That's when tech lured him away to spearhead the development and management of far too many mines to mention. His track record was the same in good times and bad, on time, on budget. And because success begat success, Bob was asked to take on the CEO and president roles in 1986 after Teck acquired control of Cominco and then build the company into a global leader in mining. Mining, of course, does not happen without heavy equipment. The big rigs Maury Young at Finning was supplying to BC's resource giants as they built their companies, and in so doing he built his company into the largest Caterpillar dealer in the world. Upon his retirement, he turned his attention to the slopes, where he built out Whistler Ski Corporation. And as if that weren't enough for a career of substance, he also established the Center for Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital at UBC. Maury Young also knew Canada needed to repair its relationship with First Nations, and that's why he established a program at UNBC supporting education for Indigenous students. He wasn't alone. Walter Kerner also set his mind to celebrating Indigenous culture and artists. He supported Indigenous carvers, helped to repatriate Indigenous works from abroad, and convinced then Prime Minister Trudeau the Senior to provide funding for the building of the iconic Museum of Anthropology, to which he donated his extensive collection. Walter and his brothers immigrated to Canada in 1939 and founded the Alaska Pine and Cellulose Company, which in 1957 became Rainier Canada, a company Walter led until his retirement. Another outstanding businessman, community leader, and philanthropist who embraced the relationship between business success and community engagement was Morris J. Wask. For 4 decades, Wask built his family business into one of the city's premier furniture and appliance businesses, Wask Limited. An element key to Morris's success was his deft touch as a real estate investor. Not only did he have a keen eye on value, he also recognized that long-term success was dependent on his relationship with his tenants. He was generous with his time and his support of the community. Mr. Wask supported diverse non-profit organizations nationally and internationally, causes that included but were not limited to education, healthcare, social services, libraries, and the arts. One of the elements of John Hardy Mitchell's life was philanthropy. His career began modestly when he signed on as a timekeeper on the docks in the 1920s. Well, it didn't take long for him to find opportunity and act upon it. Despite the Depression, in the 30s, John took over as owner of Pacific Letterage, a stevedoring service in Burrard Inlet. Quickly, he merged the company with Canadian Stevedoring, and within years took control. Over the years, he merged, created, and took ownership of docks, warehouses, and terminals, growing to become one of the city's most influential employers. When the ink was still drying on Arthur McLaren's mechanical engineering degree, he went to work in the drawing office of West Coast Shipbuilders. Here, he helped design and build 55 10,000-ton cargo ships that were dispatched into service in the Second World War. Shortly after the war, in 1948, he started Allied Shipbuilders. Employing tried and true methods of hard work, ingenuity, and common sense, he built Allied into one of BC's major shipbuilding and ship repair companies. The company specialized in shallow draft ships for northern rivers and icebreakers for Arctic service. Many of the ships were designed in-house to Arthur's original design specs. Throughout the Second World War, Clarence Wallace presided over Burrard Dry Dock, all the while expanding company operations and building ships in support of the war effort. Finding opportunity in adversity led to dramatic growth and the adoption of innovative shipbuilding techniques. So outstanding was the rise of the company that Clarence was awarded the designation of Commander of the Order of the British Empire. Later in his career, he was appointed Lieutenant Governor. James Stuart Keet was a journalist. He was born to cast a light on society through the dissemination of information. Ink was in his blood. He was a sports reporter, a war correspondent, and a naval information officer. Following the war, he took over the role of bureau chief for Time magazine in Montreal. In the 1950s, he was the publisher of the Victoria Daily Times before becoming the publisher of the newsroom of record in British Columbia, the Vancouver Sun.